So now we're doing the back of the bodice, so you can see we don't have to have a bust line because obviously you don't have that on your back, but we still have the centre back, so we've put that nicely pinned again onto the centre back of the mannequin, so it's helpfully seamed there for us. Then we've got your hip line, although that says waist, that is the hip line. So now we are going to fit the two together, so we are going to eventually need to bring this side in, so we're going to have to fit it round the waist. So again, that's going to need a dart. So the best thing is to do is just bring this up, it's exactly the same, just flatten that down and bring your dart in and pin that. I would always start by, I think, pinning. You can, some people, so if you watch some YouTube clips, they will cut up here and then fold one piece over the other. You can do it that way, but I think I would do that once I was going to true the pattern up. Once I take this off, I think I would cut it. At this stage, while you're still thinking and sort of deciding, you know, where you want your darts to be, it's quite nice just to have them pinned. So you can see we're nipping it into the waist here. Now, this dart, I always think is quite nice if this dart does this diagonal line. If it goes straight up, it's fine, you can have it straight up like we did the front under the bust, but what's quite nice is when you have this fitted, when we start to move this round, you get this nice line going up to your shoulder here, and that gives the illusion of a much more fitted and nipped in waist, so it makes your waist look slightly smaller or gives that impression. So it's always quite nice to have this on a slight line. Sometimes it might not go all the way up to the shoulder here, it might be quite a small dart, it just depends on who the person is or what the mannequin is. The other thing at this stage, some people do, particularly on sort of jackets, they will have a dart that's put in the top here. If, like mine, my dart is quite a big dart here, it might be you carry that dart all the way over. It goes over the shoulder, it picks up the front and then picks up the front dart here if you decide to put this into panels. At the moment, this is still going to be a one piece at the front. This would probably be two pattern pieces on the back, because you probably have got a fastening up here. So at the moment my dart is just going to go up, and I'm just going to finish my little dart at the top there. Okay. So at this stage we're now going to do exactly the same as we did on the front. We're now going to start to get this to attach over, so it's quite nice. We can see that we've got to join up to this line here. So again, you need to think about drawing around your neck. So we've got to find the line. We're going to draw around up the neck here. Now this is quite a high neck, so I'm just going to keep coming round. At this point I'm thinking, okay, I've now missed my line here, I'm too high, so I've got to come back, I've got to feel where that is and then just redraw that in. You will always notice that your back pattern piece is always a higher neckline than your front. Your front will always scoop down lower, because obviously that's where you've got more neck here, and that's how you will always tell a front bodice and a back bodice. Whichever's got the higher, less curve piece around the neck is always generally going to be your back part or your back piece, and the one which has got a lower scoop or a V or whatever, that's always going to generally be your front bodice piece. Okay, so we've now thought, I think that's sort of lined up more or less there. When we come to fold it, we can then decide to match it up. So I'm actually just going to take that pin out, and I am going to cut this just here, up here, where I think it is, just so we can still cut it a little bit high. So I've cut that a little bit high, but it means I can come round and I can now start to really see that I have missed it quite a lot there, but we now know that I can mark that in a minute, and we'll clip that away as we go. So the next thing to do is literally fold this. So I'm just going to fold it this way just to show you that that's how that is going to sit on there. So I do that. I'm going to cut some of this excess off because I'm just going to fold under. So this is why we have a little bit of extra even on here until we make all our final decisions. You've got a little bit of fabric to play with. So I'm now just going to tuck that under, and then I can see, so I have slightly missed it on the neckline, so you can start to see we're going to tuck that, and now I'm going to pin that to the front piece, so you can start to see this is where your seams would be, and you can then start to just pin that in. I'm just going to put some pins in a little bit loosely like this. Yeah, just try and pick that up, tucking up there so you can start to see. So now you can clearly see I've got to reshape and recut that, but I can do that in a minute once we've decided how the rest of it's going to look. So again, we now need to bring this, we're now working on your nice waist side seam here, so you can see pulling that in, what a nice shape we're starting to get. So that dart looks pretty nice. So again, this time, if you can just see where your line is, I think I would try and draw in that line. Sometimes it helps to work with a felt tip pen. So that's roughly where that line is. So I can now cut this excess off, and we're going to do exactly the same. We're going to fold that back. So I'm just going to give that a quick little cut up there. So I'm going to give myself 1.5 centimetres ish, and I'm going to stop there, and we'll sort it out going round. So now what you can do is you can start to fold that in, pin that down. So I'm just going to tack that in gently. So I might need to just pull it down a little bit. Take that pin out so you can now start to get the blunt pin, so you can start to see how this is all coming together. So we're going to just tuck that in for now. Oh, tuck that up there. Let me just get a pin. Actually, I can pinch that one and just pin that in. So you can now see actually that's where that would be seamed. These would be seamed, and we're now getting a really nice fitted bodice coming. So all we now need to do is do exactly the same as we did on the front armhole on the back here. So now that we've cut that, you can start on your little line there, or you can start on the edge there. So I'm just going to do this one, and then I'm just going to come round, and we know that we've got to join it somewhere there. So you can just, when you take your bodice off, your bodice, and true the pattern up, you will get your pattern master rulers to sort of really make these armholes feel a bit, and it might be that you want to bring them a little bit further down, but that's the whole point of making a toile. So the next thing is just cut that off, and then hopefully we will have what we think is quite a nice looking. Just going to pin that. So we've still got room where we can play around. I haven't cut this right back. We've still got a little bit here. We can still play around with a little bit here. You could possibly see that you might want to take this dart a little bit taller on our mannequin. It might be sometimes they put darts in at the top here, so you may have just on the back a dart that sits in there, and you may then have a dart that's folded there. Just depends if you've got quite a sloping back here, so you've got quite a big shoulder there, you might need to take a little bit of the excess away here and put a dart in there to still keep the shape here. It could be that you dart all the way from up here going into that dart there and take that into a panel. So there's lots of things you can do, but basically that is it for your bodice. So we've done the centre back, centre front, and we've done a half bodice together, front and back, and next thing would be to think about doing your sleeves. So at this stage, what you would do before you take this off, sort out your back here, so sort your neckline out here, decide your neckline here, but you would then mark all of your darts. You're going to draw where your pins are, all your darts in both sides, so that when you take this off you can match those up. We've got the side lines here, so you're going to draw those in on there. So what you could do here, because when we put the back bodice on, our hip line slightly moved, that doesn't matter. As long as you join this up here, you know that this pattern piece has got to fit that one, and we just move the hip line, and that's not a problem. We'll just square that off when we come to true the pattern up. So again, just draw in between your pins where your dart's going to sit. Do the same on the other side. So you've got all your lines, and then you take that off and you would true that all up. And that is essentially a fitted bodice, all pinned with your centre fronts and backs, You can sort out your necklines. Next thing would be to think about your sleeves. If this was sleeveless, you could make this a little bit narrower, so you could cut this in and bring this in like this. You could scoop that. Again, you could think about if you've got no sleeves and we're going to make this into a sort of strapless bodice, we would be getting rid of this. You'd have to do all of this exactly the same. So I'd still say start with a full bodice, get your shoulders put in, and at this point you could then think, actually I'm going to start thinking about, I'm going to do a bodice that comes round like this and scoops round and goes across. It could be that you want to do it as a little sort of sweetheart line, so it could do that, come round. You could then also think about, actually I'm going to bring this down and I'm going to take that up to little straps up there. So there's all sorts of things and variations you can do, but having this very basic front and back bodice, you can then do all the sort of variations from this, because you've got everything fitted. You've got your bust darts in, you've got your waist darts in, your back darts in, you know where your side seams are. Everything else you can draw and start cutting away, add in more darts if you want to. You could make this into, if you're going to make this into a dress, you could put this into a front panel here. This dart you could carry all the way on up through here, join the back darts, that would be one panel, second panel, back panel. Lots of variations you can do, but that is a quick guide and a quick way to do a bodice.